All right, since I'm sketching in a square, I'm asking you to do square formatting. I'm making sure I have the assets I need within my landscape assignment to tell the story I want to tell. And so I'm using the crop tool, and I'm doing what we don't usually do with the crop tool. I'm actually setting parameters in it at the top. I'm making it 1 by 1 so that it's a square. So whatever composition I find within here, I know it's going to be a square, and then I hit return, and it will crop it for me. There we go. So the other thing with animation is we're going to have lots and lots of assets, lots and lots of layers, lots and lots of pixels. I do not want it to be at full print resolution because you don't print animations. So I don't want it to be 11.59 inches at 350 pixels per inch. Our animations are all going to be the same size. They're going to be 8 inches. So I go to image, image size. I click on resample. I want to lose pixels here. 8 inches by 8 inches by 100 pixels per inch. This way our animation will run nicely on high-def screens. And we can have up to 100 animation frames and still have it load onto canvas. And when we do our refined storyboard at the end of the project, where we pick 9 frames from our finished animation to kind of show as a one-page comic book, it will be print quality because there'll be 9 of these. All right. So now what do I do? Now I'm going to clean this up. I'm going to erase the layers I don't need. I don't need the breath. Do I like the dodging and burning? I actually do like it. I'm going to keep it. I don't need the shadows on the creature. Do I like this dodging and burning? No, not as much. So I'm going to erase that one. And these. And that. And then these layers that don't do anything, they're probably cropped off. And that shadow, I'm actually going to extend it. So this is modifying your assets, right? And then this one, well, that's interesting. There's this little kind of triangle of grass you can get rid of. And then there's the backdrop, and then there's the sky. All right, so what assets do I actually want to keep? So, and keep them separate. It would be nice to play with the sky. So I'm going to keep that as an element that's separate, so I can play with it. This is all one, that's great. That's fine. This needs to be separate because I'm going to have something bump up against it. So maybe I want to have something pop up behind it. You know, it's kind of like a foreground prop on the stage. So I'm going to keep that separate. This shadow, this doesn't really matter. And then the atmosphere is something I could play with. But I don't need it in 2 separate layers. So why don't I put it into a group together and just call that, this is my atmosphere. It's my texture overlay, right? So what does it look like without it? Pretty different. And then, yeah, this shadow I don't need. So now I've kind of cleaned my setting up to be about atmosphere, which I'll make gray. The boat, which I'll make, let's see, orange. The setting, which I'll just leave blank. And then the sky, which is, I'll make blue for blue sky. Because animation is not just about planning, it's really about organizing what you're working with. All right, now I checked my image size before I go any further. Is it 800 by 800 pixels? Yes. Is it 8 inches by 8 inches by 100 pixels per inch? Yes. Good. Now I'm going to save this as my assignment 3 stage. Now this is one of 2 PSDs we're going to be making today. This isn't stage, sorry, this is assets. A-S-S-E-T-S. The stage is going to come next. So I put that in all caps. I'm going to save it to the desktop, even though eventually it will get held in assignment 3. And hit save. And then I want to check my desktop, make sure it's there. There it is. I'm going to mark it green. Those are my assets. Already I have things I can play with these different layers. Okay, so my sketch is going to be informed by this. So, how can I do that? I know I have a boat here. Your sketch can be very loose. So I have a boat side here. That's my boat. And this is going to be in all of them. It's just part of the setting. And I'm not going to do any special zooms or pans. I always get too ambitious with the animations, and I want to focus it on the transformation. Okay, this is my first frame, where I just have the sky and the setting, the ground, right? And this is what's called an establishing shot. I'm going to establish the setting. And voila, this is my first panel. It establishes the setting. Next, what am I going to do? I'm going to introduce int my character. And it's going to come in as an egg. And it's going to be rolling. So arrows are pretty important for storyboard, so you know directionality. And then the egg's going to roll. Here, I'll do it at a different angle. And then the egg's going to hit this little impact. And then it's going to roll back and teeter a little bit. And then what happens, it's going to start to crack. So I might make a little note. Cracks. And then legs are going to pop out. You guys with me so far? Now, that, because it's going to be a cracked egg now with legs, that showcases a transformation. It starts this way, it ends this way. There's a transition between it where it's cracked but no legs popped out to where it's cracked with legs popped out. And then I'm going to continue it a little bit. I'm going to have the top of the egg pop out. That's why I like to do it in 9 frames, because you can kind of decide what the consequences are. So the shell breaks away, and I'm going to have my little guy here with these dinosaur legs. And then he's going to go away, and his human feet are going to pop out. So he's going to duck down. So pop up, goes down, right? And then the last frame, I'm going to have my creature's head from assignment 2 pop out. And he's going to have the human legs. So, does that make sense? Do I have a transformation? Even though I delay the introduction of the character, it goes from an egg to, at the end, this thing, right? And then it shows the steps in between. Now I can think of other things. Do I want the setting to just be perfectly still the whole time? Because I have the sky I can play with. I've got the atmosphere I can play with. So what I usually like to do is to activate that atmosphere a little bit. And so what I'm going to do is make the clouds just kind of shift in the sky a little bit. I'm just going to have these just go this way. Slowly, slowly, slowly. And with that texture overlay, I can kind of flicker the mist. So I'm just going to make a general note. Mist / fog ebbs and flows, which I can do with opacity. So I'm not going to move that. I'm just going to deepen it or like make it more opaque, make it less opaque, make it more opaque, make it less opaque. All right, now I've got my plan. So it doesn't need to be any more complicated than that. It's important that you understand it. It has a beginning, it has a middle, it has an end, and then I can think, how can I set it to reset? Well, I'm just going to have the creature probably just fade out, and then it will set to here. But I'll worry about that later. It's not a requirement to set it to reset, but it really helps with looping. I could play it backwards, but that doesn't really make sense because eggs don't put themselves back together. But it's something to try. Okay, now I've saved this. I'm just going to save it as a JPEG, and I post it to Canvas. And what's nice is I'll keep it as a reference just in the corner of my screen for as I build my assets. And the goal is to build assets for at least your beginning frames, your first 3 frames. So let me post my first requirement. I put my name. And then I'm going to do requirement 1. And it is your rough 9 square panel storyboard sketch. Now, if your storyboard sketch isn't in squares, it's in rectangles, still post it. You're just going to be building your assets in that 8 by 8 inch and 100 pixels per inch square. Okay, now I hit return. I am at 100% viewing within the browser. So when I drag and drop my sketch for assignment 3, which I'll mark orange because it's an online format, as a JPEG, I want to shrink it so it fits a little about halfway. You know, I don't want it to take up so much space. And now I've got that. Actually, I'm just going to fit it right under those words. This is not going to be as interesting as the animations I post. Okay? So now I'm also going to open that up. I can view it in Canvas if I need to be reminded. If you guys draw it in your sketchbooks, you can just have your sketchbook open in front of your computers. But I can also open it in preview and just kind of tuck it into the corner here. Because story is everything in animation. You got to keep your plan. You don't want to get sidetracked. You might get lots of fun in between ideas. But I know I need at least 9 frames to tell this story. But to make the egg really look like it's rolling and then hitting and then wobbling, I'm going to need more than 9 frames. So I need to keep on task. So be reminded of my sketch. Keeps turning to that when I put it into the corner. It's trying to be helpful. Okay, there we go. There we go. Now, do you guys agree I have my first frame, which is just establishing the setting? Right? That works. So, frame 1 complete. How do I document it? Well, I have it up on the whiteboard. I have it, this workflow, at the bottom of the instructions, right here, in Canvas. And I will put the one that I copied onto the whiteboard because I like it a little bit better, and I'll replace that. And I have a link to that process of how stop motion is made, because this is how we're going to do frame-by-frame animation using Photoshop. Except we're not going to have sound, right? So we have to set up the scene. They use puppets and sets and backdrops. We have pixels because we're doing it in 2 dimensions. And just like the Pinocchio puppet, which you can see there, or that's another character puppet, has all these different kind of facial assets to change expressions, we're going to build different layers into our assets file to build those scenes. But right now it's just the setting for my first image. So how do I capture this and then move this over to the film? I'm going to follow those steps exactly as they're written. So step one,